There are differences between therapy and coaching that we take when we go through a spiritual awakening. So, therapy is something which assumes that it is bound to start with a baseline assumption about you, that you are weaker, that you can't handle things, that you don't have inner resources yet, and it is bound to assume that there is some mental health issue like depression, anxiety, suicidality, etc. So that is the baseline that it assumes about everybody, and it very often does not release this baseline. So if you speak of some trauma or something else, it will immediately start looking at you from this baseline. So one more aspect of therapy is that it will want you to keep prolonging the use of therapy. Like you have to show up every week, it's a given. Many organizations that offer therapy want you to commit to a weekly routine or something like that. And you may not be wanting it weekly, so it does not allow for spontaneity. All right. Now, a third thing is that the person who is hosting you is talking to you, your therapist, may themselves not understand anything about your spirituality. So they may have something that they've read about, but if they are not going through that themselves, then it is very hard for them to guide you correctly. They may try to bring you back to grounded reality more often than not. When you speak of spiritual awakening or your spiritual journey or your spiritual life, it may be something that they don't understand. A fourth thing is that it's very hard to find a therapist who will not judge you or label you, because therapy likes to solve problems by labeling and judgment. So they will try to use some label to define what you're going through. Okay. And sometimes labels are helpful for us to understand what we want to do more research on, what we want to understand more about. But the problem is that this type of a labeling that comes from therapy can be about every small thing that you do. In the way you show up for an hour, many times you may feel like you are just here to be judged, to be labeled, to be told this or to be told that, to be analyzed, rather than just to be accepted, to be held, to just have presence without the person thinking something about you and giving you that assessment. However intelligent that assessment sounds, it immediately alienates. So that is something that a therapist is not necessarily able to do, because they've come into that profession through degrees, through all that studies and stuff, which is all about an analysis, it is all about judgment, it is all about formulating that conclusion which is rewarded in society. Like, how do we get a degree? We have to sound and look and write in very conclusive statements. You can't be open-ended. You have to. The whole training of education is to make you very conclusion driven, right? So I remember when I used to be a student, when I studied courses or whatever I wanted to pursue, and what I did pursue, it had a little open-endedness about it. But there were courses in like management, etc., that always made you very driven by conclusion. Even if you didn't know something, you must have an opinion. And I feel that unfortunately that type of a management related course, which became very popular, it has pervaded across all courses. So even psychology, even therapy, many people um, may be focusing on that. Let me give you a conclusion about this, because that is what was rewarded in me. There is very little self reflection which is sometimes seen in a therapist, that is their own individual process. So if someone has not self reflected within them, then it is very hard. The way they are going to judge you and reflect back to you something that you're going through is going to inevitably be colored by their own shadows. Okay. So this part, now when it comes to spiritual coaching, if you are with a coach who does not look at their own shadows, and shadows are present even after union, shadows are present even after heightened states of awareness, because that's just the way it is. The higher we go, the more the number of shadows start appearing, because it's just an unraveling of deeper layers of our being that continues. So if someone has shut down looking at their shadows, they just feel like that's nothing. I have this energetic experience and I don't want to look at my mind and all of those shadows that I hold. But one thing is, if they can stay in that energetic experience, it's great. But if they are coming to coach and they're coming to guide and they're coming to talk, so then they are entering a field of duality. And the moment they're entering a field of duality, their own dualism within, which is their mind, which has all these shadows, is going to play a role. So even if you have a very aware, a very heightened like person in coaching you or something like that, if they are not reflecting on their own shadows, there will be projection of their shadows. They will still operate in a certain mirroring principle to you, and it is very, very bad with the therapist. It is much less bad, but still very present and still can be very dangerous with a coach also. So now coming to spiritual coaching, before I just tell you, what is the difference, one thing you must know is whenever you go to anybody, you must use your own inner sovereignty and your own inner discretion. You don't have to give your power to somebody, even if they sound very, spiritually awake or aware or like intelligent or something else. Okay. Even if they are in some great state of awareness that you feel, is present with them, your inner trust and your inner intuition must guide you always with everything and everybody. That is not something you shut down and you give your power away to somebody. You don't surrender to somebody. You don't surrender to some person in this journey. And you don't believe any knowledge that anybody gives you if it is not in alignment with your soul. So first you must have alignment with your soul. Now the thing about spiritual coaching is, a spiritual coach you don't have to go to every week. You don't even have to go to every month. You go to them when something has arisen in you. You feel the need to go there to receive some guidance about something that is happening, right? Then you approach a spiritual coach with a certain receptivity, a certain openness, a certain, freedom on that day when you're approaching a coach, also like before the session, after the session also, because it's more than therapy. It is something that if you have openness towards, a lot can be transmitted to you. Okay. A second thing is that, like I said, maintain your inner intuition even in spiritual coaching, and share that inner intuition with the coach also. So that will really help you to have more alignment in the session and for higher messages to come through for you. A third thing is that if you go to a coach, always be aware of shadows. Opinions, many times we all are just sharing our opinions, even on Twin Flame channels. We're not sharing facts. Like what I share with you is not a fact of the universe, right? The facts or the truth, they are experienced more within. But when they are converted into words, inevitably they end up getting colored as opinions. Okay. So the truth finding, the truth seeking is always your own personal domain. It's always you turning inward with yourself. But these experiences that a coach will share, or knowledge or wisdom that they will share, they may make some assumptions about you and start sharing it. In that case, either the coach should be very open first to understanding your situation, or should guide you to finding your own solutions. That is very much possible through working with your shadows. Your shadows themselves become guides. Okay. We are ruled by our shadows, our instincts, our emotions, our big decisions. They are basically ruled by the way we have been, the imprints of the past wounds that we are carrying, and the behaviors that are formed based on those past wounds. Even your twin flame separation is largely driven by your shadows. It's not really driven by necessarily only your state of consciousness. Even if you attain a higher state of consciousness within you and you maintain that energetic state of awareness, if the shadows don't allow receptivity for the masculine energy, then union will not happen. Union will not sustain itself. Even if it does happen, some contact happens or something, it will be very hard to sustain, because so much wounding is still present inside. So much work needs to be done to be aware of those shadows, right? So all in all, if the coach themselves works on their shadows, becomes aware of their shadows, then they know that, they will help you to go deeper within your own. They will question your own beliefs, your own assumptions, without labeling you, without uh, giving you the baseline of some mental sickness or something else, right? Without assuming things about you and giving you a one size fits all solution. There is never going to be a one size fits all, thing for twin flames. You have to find your own voice. You have to find your own, what resonates with you. And on different days, different types of wisdoms can come to you, right? Different types of wisdom can come to you. It comes to you when you are open and receptive. So it's important to be very fluid in your journey. Another thing with a spiritual awakening coach is like they have themselves gone through what you're going through, or may be going through it. That parallel can also be sometimes, our guides guide us to work with someone who is effectively transmuting that issue within them, so they can help you to transmute the same issue within you. So this just works wonderfully, especially in healing of abuse or healing of some other kind of childhood trauma. It literally acts as a wave. Like one person who heals herself or himself creates a wave of healing for the others. So if you feel drawn to work with someone regarding a certain issue and you don't know why, you're pulled in that direction to do that work, it may be because their healing wave wants to touch you, and even you are able to transmute that wound. This is just the way it all works. This is the way healing basically spreads itself, and this is the exact way damage also spreads itself. If a coach is carrying a wounded consciousness within and is not involved with their shadows, but maintains a high state of awareness, but enters duality to offer coaching or to offer teaching or offer mentorship or guidance or make videos and all of that stuff, then they are entering duality where again their shadows have become active. Okay? If you're just sitting silently meditating, it doesn't matter what your mind says. In their meditative states, in their silent states, they can experience that higher state of consciousness. But the moment they use language, the moment they use their mind to do something, to do an action, it is going to be colored with shadows. So one has to hold awareness even to their own inner shadows, which sometimes with higher states of awareness, one also starts thinking that they develop a spiritual ego, and they start feeling like they're very important, they've experienced something great, and all of that, fantastic things have happened to them. Many higher states of experiences have unlocked. So one mistake they make is they feel all powerful within them, and because of this, they become controlling, or they become one size fits all types of narratives start to come out, or they develop this very strong and powerful spiritual ego, which believes itself to be holier than others, or believes itself to be, it's okay if I disrespect others or something like that. So this can start happening where your inner experiences can start getting negated. And then they have to go through another dark night of the soul to release this spiritual ego also, which is more dangerous than a lower ego, than the ego which believes that it doesn't know anything, and it carries maybe a low self-worth, is less dangerous, and it is easier to get rid of than a spiritual ego. So many coaches can also be stuck in spiritual egos, it's very much possible. Like we have to be so aware and so careful about, so self-reflective when we are holding space for someone else, that I don't know if many coaches are doing that. So I'm just sharing this with you in case, because you're all going through an awakening. So just to have that barometer within you to check whether this person is speaking from absolute certainty about my life when they hardly know me, then probably I need to be a little aware, feel into your heart about what comes from spiritual ego, what comes from higher consciousness, and the messages will be very clear to you. So spiritual ego is quite dangerous, okay? And many operate from it, and this is why negative things end up happening in spiritual communities, like cults start developing and other things start happening, or absolutism starts coming in, or like this is the only way, that type of a language starts to happen. And then what they believe are their personal opinions based on their personal observations still being ruled by their own shadows, they start feeling that those personal opinions are facts. So they may present to you twin flame facts when they are basically opinions based on their own experiences. The universe is too vast for us to have any conclusion about the universe. Okay. So we have to keep ourselves flexible, active, keep ourselves moving, keep ourselves open. Be careful of the projections, the shadowy projections of other coaches, other mentors, twin flame coaches, spiritual awakening coaches, or anything like that. You be very, very aware of it. Tune into your heart always to find the answers. So I just felt like sharing this because I've noticed this a lot around me and through my own experiences of the past as well. So I felt like sharing this with all of you. If you wish to work one on one with me, click on the first link in the description to see the types of sessions that I offer. So, in these sessions, we go very deep, we do some deep healing work, and we resolve any triggers, blocks, any confusions, etc., that are emerging, as well as any childhood trauma, any flashbacks, etc., that you may have. We work with these and we release them from the root. This is very deeply guided work that needs a lot of presence, and I hold that space and direction for you in these sessions, and it plugs in right with the spiritual awakening that we are going through and the shadows that affect us. So we work with these shadows very deeply, and I also guide you intuitively in these sessions. So I channel your guides and I share any other spiritual wisdom that is coming through specific to you in these sessions. You can also subscribe to my Patreon page by clicking on the second link in the description, where videos go very deep. And recently I posted on releasing ancestral debt on the spiritual awakening twin flame path, as well as I've just uploaded something on the conundrum of work and how to have work flow from your state of rest. So many twin flames struggle with survival and managing the awakening together. So this is going to give you a very deep insight into how to do that, practical as well as very spiritual. So you can check that out individually. You can access these videos or subscribe to tier 2 to get access to all videos on my Patreon page for a month. I also post at tier 1 level, so you can check it out. I'm sending you love.